Hey everybody, Bryce Coon here with the Crowded Booth, and we're back with another episode. And yes, baseball season is back. The Braves just finished their opening homestand, and even though they just celebrated a World Series win, yes, the Twitter naysayers are back. We're going to talk about why the sky's not falling and have some dang perspective. All this and more on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
Hey everybody, Bryce Coon here. I'm joined by the one and only, the Ralph Leary. Ralph, how you doing, my man?
You know, Bryce, it's been a great week, man. Got to see the Braves in person on Monday. It was awesome. We were there for the World Series ring giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they lost, but guess what? It was the fifth game of the season. Could care less if they lost, honestly.
Well, listen, it's Braves baseball is back. We appreciate if you're listening over on the radio. If you're watching over on YouTube, those numbers continue to climb. We appreciate you. Ralph, first off, I want you to go ahead and wave and say hello to Mommy and Daddy.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Anyone that follows us on Twitter knows it's that joke. You should follow us on Twitter at The Crowded Booth, at Bryce_Coon, and at Ralph Leary as we talk and have great conversations sometimes. And sometimes we have conversations with just absolute joys to work with and be around. Ralph, let's talk about today. We're going to talk about the beginning of kind of how this all works. And it's baseball season's back. And Ralph, listen, believe me, I am ecstatic to have Braves baseball back. But what I'm not ecstatic about is the people who, I guess they assumed that the Braves won the World Series. And they didn't assume it actually happened. But the Braves won the World Series, and then they assumed that they were never going to lose another game and that they would never, ever have another problem. Ralph, we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about it. But this today is a message to the unrealistic fan. And I'm not talking about, Ralph, the person that, and we know these people who are, dang, that sucked, or dang, they, maybe, maybe Dansby Swanson, should lay off that pitch. All those things are true. We're talking today, Ralph, about the people that go on social media and they think it's a great idea to sit there and start spewing just straight sewage, garbage, Ralph, that doesn't even make logical sense. They want to trade people. They want Brian Snitker already fired before lineup combinations. I had a guy walk up to me at the Braves game, Ralph, on Monday and say, Braves got to figure out the fifth and sixth spot in this rotation. I mean, they just got to do it. Dude, it is one game. Ralph, there is a YouTube channel on this very platform that is doing daily breakdowns of Braves games. First off, bless your heart. Second off, they talked about how Huascar Ynoa might just not have it this year. It was one outing. So listen, this is for the people with common sense. If you don't have common sense, I don't even want you to watch this video because there's no point in having a conversation. And I think the biggest thing, Ralph, we have to realize is Twitter is not real life. It's not real life. And so we get caught up that. Sometimes these ideas catch on Twitter and they manifest themselves and we let it dictate a sport or we let it dictate a conversation, and it's not real life. So I say all that to say, Ralph, what have you seen so far and how ridiculous is it that some people already want, like to me, and this is a completely informal show that we're doing here today, Ralph, the idea that Brian Snitker's lineup combination and that he doesn't know how to manage with a DH, it's been 6 games. Now, now 7. Apologies. Ralph, I know that you and I are not the most studious people, but I also know that we understand that in order to have a sample size to go off of, you want a large amount of data. 7 games does not qualify as that. Ralph, Eddie Rosario's not hitting very well. Does that mean that he's going to hit 0.97 the whole season? No. Huascar Ynoa, not doing very well. Didn't do very well in his first start. Does that mean that he's going to have a 9 ERA all season? No. And I'll even throw it back to you, Ralph. Charlie Morton dominated. Does that mean that he's going to have a 1.2 ERA all year? No. It doesn't mean any of these things. The overreaction, and I got my own thoughts on it, and I'm probably going to post the clip when we post this full video later this afternoon. But Ralph, just give me your thoughts on this. I mean, how it's just miserable. It has to be miserable to view baseball through the lens of compartmentalizing it every day. And I mean, Ralph, you'll be depressed. You would literally be depressed if you did that, and people do.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about people who are mad at Max Fried for starting 0-2 right now, okay, Max Fried's going to have losses. He's not going to go 28-0. He's not going to have post a 0 ERA. He's not have 350 strikeouts this season. It's just not realistic anymore. There are 9 guys on the other side of the field, another dugout, who want to beat you just as bad. The Nationals pitched a top prospect out of the Dodgers organization last year today in a trade they got for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner last year. That's who they got. That's who they got. They pitched Josiah Gray, who pitched exceptionally today. He was a top prospect for a reason. He was like the 5th overall prospect in baseball last year. He's gonna have great games. He's not some ranky-dink Triple H pitcher throwing. I mean, he's a top prospect. He was going to make it to the big leagues one day and be a star. That's what everyone expect him to be. That's what he's going to be. But if the Braves start out slow, it's okay because guess what? They didn't hit 500 till last year in August. They didn't hit 500 till August, Bryce. They were 8 games behind the Mets in June, I believe. They lost Acuna. They had to rebuild the outfield. They had to basically pray and hope and just please God let this bullpen carry throughout the postseason. And they did. And that's why I'm wearing this shirt right now, because they won the World Series last year.
Yeah.
Not because the front office controls everything. It has to be run through a manager who sets the lineups, decides who goes out to the bullpen. He makes the calls. Alex Anthopoulos is not sitting behind Brian Snitker telling him what to do like a puppet master. Now, what Alex Anthopoulos does is that he deals his hand when he's ready to go and find somebody that we need. And at times, and that's what he's best at. But we're overreacting in the 7th game when Ronald Acuna Jr. has not even stepped on the field yet.
Yeah. He did for the ring ceremony, and that was it.
And that's it. He has not played a game yet. He has not taken a swing in a real game yet. I mean, we're overreacting here. People are saying, "Well, why is Dickerson starting?" Because you got to DH somebody. If they're righty, you need a lefty in the lineup. Or why is Guillermo Heredia in there? Why is Manny Pena in there? Did you not see Darno get plunked last night? He needs a day off from that plunking. I mean, come on. You got to be realistic at some points and realize that some guys just need a chance to get a few days in, get their swings in. Like if you want to really understand what's going on here, go watch Matt Olson's conversation about spring training. He goes, I really just get my swings in. I need about 150 swings throughout spring training to get myself really going for the season. That makes perfect sense. You want live pitching. You want a lot of swings in that live pitching because you want to be prepared for the first day. We had 2 weeks of spring training. I think pitched a total of 7 innings all throughout spring training. That helps no one. And that's in all honesty, Bryce, that's a very good start of a one game.
Yeah.
7 innings. Most of these guys are leaving the spring training with almost 20 innings pitched, and that's a good stretch for them to go. Most of these guys aren't stretched, and I love what Brian Sticker's doing right now. Throw them about 75 pitches. Wherever inning they're in, take them out. No reason pushing these guys to the full extent and injuring them this early in the season.
Ralph, it just feels like we're going to talk about this because we got a full show, but you hit the nail right on the head. Like, you just can't compartmentalize this game. It's too long. And so before I go too far, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come right back because I could talk for a very long time on kind of what's going on, but we're right back here on the Crowded Booth.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
Back here on the Crowded Booth as we're talking about the overreaction from a lot of fans throughout the first 7 games of the regular season. Ralph, to me, it's even silly that we have to have this conversation. And I just want to preface this with this. Now, Ralph, you and I both know we are not. I'm not trying to say at all in this video and in this show today that we are experts on the game of baseball. No, not even close. But this is what gets me. When you have people sitting here talking about, and I've seen this already, there's no chemistry. This team has no chemistry. You can already tell. No one knows outside of the 28 guys on the active roster in that locker room, the coaching staff and the support staff. No one knows. And listen, this is even to a credit to the credentialed media members, Ralph. This is the David O'Briens, the Jeff Schultzes, and these they're great guys. I love reading their stuff, but they don't know. Nobody knows what this team is feeling. And first off, it doesn't matter. It's the 7th game of the season. I'm sorry if you don't like that Alex Dickerson is DHing. He's going to get an opportunity because guess what? They're not going to let Guillermo Heredia hit against right-handers. But it doesn't matter. Enjoy the game of baseball. You know, the biggest thing, Ralph, and this is the biggest misconception with the game of baseball, is people and as fans, we've been completely spoiled of the idea of college football.
Yeah.
College football, you can compartmentalize each week. And I said this is a perfect example. You and I and a couple of the guys were walking out of the stadium on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
If Georgia loses that week 1 matchup to Oregon, Georgia fans, the guys in the locker room, everyone knows they cannot mess up again if they want to go to the playoff. That's that.
Right.
Baseball works completely different, Ralph. College ball spans from the month of September to really end of November, and then you may play one more game after that.
Maybe.
SEC title game's the first week of December, and you might play one game after that. Let's even take into Georgia and Alabama, for example. Their season spanned from September to the end of November, or the first week of December. They took a month off. They played 2 games, essentially, end of December, first couple weeks of January.
Mm-hmm.
So it spanned what? That's September, October, November, December, and January. 5 months. And really, they played twice in the span of a month, so kind of weird. So let's just say 4 months. Major League Baseball goes from April, and if you're the Braves last year, to November.
Think about it.
That's 7 months. And actually March.
Yeah.
And if you want to even count when the guys actually reported last year, it was like February 27th.
Yeah.
All of this to say, going back to it, we have been spoiled and we've been conditioned to think that you can compartmentalize the game of baseball into daily things. And that is just not realistic. A guy can have a horrible day and come back the next day and do fantastic. But in college football, if a quarterback throws 6 picks or 4 or 5 interceptions, or a defender, Ralph, gets blown by 2 or 3 times, that is the difference in a game. It's the difference in a season. It's the difference in his job at that position. That is not how it works in the game of baseball. It just doesn't. And I think we're at a point where we have people generally, and like I say, we don't claim to know the game of baseball, but there's just some baseline things that folks on social media just completely elect to ignore. And I think the biggest thing is that you don't know any better, and I'm counting you and I in this.
Yeah. We
We don't know any better than Brian Snicker knows. The idea that we know something that he doesn't is bizarre. And I go back to Ralph when we, post national championship, I went back and watched a little bit of Jimbo Fisher sitting down with his staff and watching the game. And I'm sure it's the same thing in every single other sport. If you were just a fly on the wall in those meetings, those scouting report meetings, you would quickly realize you know nothing. You know nothing. And so I'll let you have it, but that's just kind of how I feel about things.
I just have a few things just to add on to Bryce, and it's just kind of quick things. Is people who doubt Brian Snicker. And Brian Snicker's first year as a manager, which was 2016, he was the interim manager during that season after they fired Freddie Gonzalez. 2016 was a rough season for the Braves. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of hard times. If you weren't there at the time, congratulations, because it was rough. We've seen the pain, Bryce. We've been through the pain. We've seen the ups and downs. We've seen the highs and lows. We've seen it all. We watched the Upton brothers lead the Braves at one point to a playoff appearance. It was a fun time back then. You know, that man right there, I would put my faith in any team in the major leagues would put their faith in that man right there. There's no one I believe in. I mean, you can argue with me. There's a few managers who probably think better, who've been around longer, you know, but what he does is he cares. You know, it's not about, you know, well, we didn't go out there and execute properly. No, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, there's a few things we missed on, and, you know, it hurt us in the long run. That happens in baseball. It's going to happen in baseball. That man has been coaching since 1980. He's been around the game for a very long time, Bryce. And that was when
More than these people on Twitter have even been alive.
Right, and that's because that's when he started with the Braves. He got fired, or he was released by the Braves in 1980. But he was a roving instructor, so he's been around the team for a very long time. He was with a lot of these kids and guys who play now with the Braves through the minor leagues. They trust him. They want to play for him. This dugout is led by this man. I mean, if the lineup's a little off one day, that's not Snicker's fault. That means the lineup just didn't hit well that day. I mean, the pitcher is pitching extremely well that day. I mean, they faced Patrick Corbin last night. You watched Patrick Corbin 4 years ago. He was dicing the Braves up left and right. Ozzie Albies looked like a moron out there against them every year. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what happens when you develop players. That's what happens when you are able to get better in the over years. You produce prospects. You develop those prospects into future stars. Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Ozzie Albies. I can go on through a list. Austin Riley. I mean, think about those guys in 3 years ago in 2018 when Ronald Acuna was brought up. You know, no one thought the playoffs was possible, Bryce.
Yeah.
I mean, about you had said mid-June, you'd be like, well, we might fight for a while. We might fight for a wild card game. You know, that was the high for everybody. They went on to win the NL East. They had not lost the NL East in 3 years since that year because of that man right there. Yeah. His first thing every year is let's win the division and then we'll take it from there. That's his main focus every year. It's not. You know, and you can go on some managers say, let's win the next day, win the next day, win the next day. That takes too long, okay? Let's not focus on the next day. Let's focus on, you play 162 games. That's 162 times you saying, let's win the next day. That's too slow. Brian Sicker goes, that's just too slow for us. Let's just win the division again. We can. Mm-hmm. The Mets pay way too much money for these people, and they go find this former manager who managed the Orioles for 30 years and made 2 playoff appearances. Okay, I love Buck Showalter. Don't get me wrong. I love him. But golly, the dude has not done anything forever. So you get the Phillies, who are just a shell of themselves when it comes to bullpen pitching, and their third baseman hates the city he plays for. I mean, the Marlins are going to be – their pitching stats are going to be incredible in a few years.
Yeah.
That's about it.
They just refuse to spend money.
Yeah. And, they have the greatest number one hitter in history in Jorge Soler. So it is – as much as people hate on Brian Snitker, please just go back and watch let's say 2015 season. Just go watch a few games that season. And watch how rough it was watching Freddie Gonzalez put a lineup together. Watching Freddie Gonzalez pull bullpen pitchers out there. It wasn't fun. I mean, Bryce, we both know. You watched it on Peachtree TV back then. They had days where their cameras weren't working and the grass was like dark green. You could tell it was different color grass. I mean, it was rough back then. I mean, I'm saying back then. I mean, I talked to my parents about some things the other day, and my parents like, you should watch this in the 1980s when you could watch it on TBS and then it would lose by like 9 runs and
they were terrible. It was horrible. Dale Murphy and Bob Horner, and that was it. They didn't have anybody else.
My dad's like, people complain about now, and it's like you should have watched 1980 when no one complained because they just like going to a $5 baseball game and enjoying this being the atmosphere. And that's what we did. I can tell you right now, I couldn't tell you what happened most of the night game on Monday because I was just having a good time.
We had a good time. Indeed. Hey, when we come back, we're going to finish up and wrap up the show with just more of just be realistic. Don't be a nerd.
Your soap is ugh, and your body wash is a synthetic detergent. But you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch Natural Soap for Men. For men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons. And let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
Back here on the Crowded Booth, we appreciate if you're listening over on radio throughout East Alabama and West Georgia. If you're checking us out on podcasts, hey, we don't push it too often, but hey, leave us a review. Doesn't have to be a 5-star. We'd love for you to. Let us know what you think. Share with your friends. Also, hit that subscribe button and make sure to like this video over on YouTube as we continue. We're getting closer to 400 subscribers. That's exciting as well. Ralph, I'll tell you what's not exciting is when I open up my Twitter timeline and I see these jabronis just talking about, live tweeting a Braves game every single pitch has first off, like let's just be real here.
I'm sorry.
Unless you are one of the 4 media credentialed members that's updating people who live in Walla Walla, Washington about what's going on about the Braves, just stop. Just stop. There's
There are
no
2
reason
people
for that.
I read about the Braves right now.
Who's that? Who's it? Tell me.
David O'Brien.
Love David O'Brien. I love his
and the
podcast, by the way.
And the Atlanta Braves Twitter page.
It's a good one. It's a good
Those
one.
are the only ones that make sense to me.
I would say the channel that they're on, but I'm refusing to say that name out of my mouth because it's so bad. But anyways, let me go back to this, Ralph. We talk more about the Braves. Listen, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. What I can't get past, and listen, if you're one of these fans and you've stayed through this show, please let us know in the comments. I genuinely do not understand the idea that 7 months into the season, you got a World Series title. 5 months into the season, you were just flailing around. You were just treading water. But now 7 games into the season, you think the world's over. And there's trolls out there, and I get that. But there are seriously, honest to God people, Ralph, that think this season is kaput. That there's no way. And we talked about it in our preview. Ralph, this team is dang good. But like anything in the game of baseball, and Braves fans should know this more than anyone. That is the part I don't get. How do you not understand that it's okay? It's all right. Just enjoy it. And then around June and July, start to really, really dive into it. But Twitter's not real life. Close the app, go outside, enjoy nature, do something else. Put your phone down. Like, I love social media, Ralph. It's what we're on. We have to be on it. That's how we reach audiences. But it is ruined, especially the game of baseball, because people just throw their opinions out. And listen, there's another thing. I don't care if you have an opinion, but if you're going to have an opinion that is backed up by no logic or no argument, that's you're just throwing it out there. And also say this: you can't get offended when you throw your opinion on a public platform in Twitter and someone disagrees with you. You just can't do that. It's just one of those things. You can't do that. Ralph, I'm going to let you say something, then I'm going to go, and then we're going to wrap this up because I don't even know what else we can say. We've gone 22 minutes so far. I don't know how we got that far into this without us getting too mad, but I'll let you take it away right here.
Honestly, Bryson, you said it best right there. Honestly, toward the end, but and if you're a fan like you and I, and we just watch the game to watch the game, and we really care about it till about late September. Do you remember last year? I think every time we talk about the Braves over the summer, we kept saying we're not worried. We're not worried because we're not worried. I'm still not worried. I haven't broken a sweat over a Braves game. Have I yelled? No. Was I yelling at Marcelo Ozuna for having a noodle arm in left field? Yes, because that's fun. I had a bunch of kids yelling behind me, yelling noodle arm because they didn't know what it meant, but they thought it was funny. But, there's no reason to get mad or complain about what's going on in the 5th game, 6th game, 7th game of the season because they still play 150 more. I mean, it's baseball. It's not easy. It's not an easy sport. I mean,
No.
you got Spencer Strider out there throwing 100 miles an hour, and Juan Soto hits one off the bat like 110 miles an hour. He's a great baseball player. He's no scrub. I mean, Juan Soto is. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. If you're a Braves fan, obviously you probably don't like Juan Soto, but given the chance, if you're able to go watch the Nationals play at home or in Atlanta, watch Juan Soto hit BP. It is a really exciting thing to do. I mean, I'm not a Nationals fan. I don't like Nationals, but I did watch Juan Soto hit one off the chop house, and it might have went off the bat about 130 miles an hour. I don't know, but it probably did. But it was pretty cool. But in all seriousness, though, like, there's no reason to be upset about what's going on in week 2. The Dodgers today. You want me mad? How do you think Dodgers feel today? I mean, Dodgers fans just watched their Hall of Fame pitcher go out there and shove seven innings of perfect baseball. Perfect. No hits, no walks,
Dave
no runs.
Roberts just needs to
And then
get
the
a
manager
book.
pulls him out. If Brian Snicker would have done that, I would have been a little angry too. But Brian Snicker wouldn't have done that because he understands what that means to that man. If that was Morton in that situation, Morton's staying in there, he's shoving the rest of the game.
Well, listen, this thing too, and we'll wrap it up right here. Ralph, the bottom line is you can't compartmentalize the game of baseball.
Right.
Yeah, you can have the mantra of win each day's a new day. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But the idea that game number 3 sets the tone for the next 157, 58, 59 games is just it's not realistic. And so you have to be realistic about your expectations. I'll tell you this, it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is. It's probably realistically somewhere in the middle. Eddie Rosario's not going to hit 97.097 average all year. He's not going to do that. Dansby Swanson, folks, there's people that already want to trade him. I mean, Ref, already want to trade him. This is one of the more clutch Braves players of the past decade who helped this team win a World Series, who literally tied the game in Game 4 of the World Series before Soler came up and hit that home run that almost dislocated Yordan Alvarez's body from his head. I mean, this is something seriously here. Like, I think people just forget. And because of social media, we get to scroll. People they forget what happened 10 minutes ago. And it's much less 5 months ago when they won the World Series. And so, listen, we can't tell you how to fan. We can't tell you how to do that. I get a fan stands for a fanatic. But I just tell you this. To help with your blood pressure, to remove some of those medical bills that will come up in your life, just turn the TV off. Because you probably can't watch the game anyway on Bally Sports.
Nope.
But just enjoy the game. Ralph, we went to the game on Monday. It was a blowout. But we went 2 other guys, and it was a ton of fun. We had a great time just hanging out. Baseball is one of the best things there is. I was sitting next to the guy that we went to, and I'll shout out his name, Brett. And I got to shout out somebody else, too. I don't know if he's going to make it this far in the episode. But the thing is, for me, is that we were sitting there, you know what? Baseball is just awesome. Like, it's so relaxing. And these people who are just, I just, Ralph, they just can't have fun. They just can't have fun, Ralph. For the radio listeners, I almost just spilled a bottle of water all over myself. But just have fun, man. Just enjoy the game. Stop taking yourself too seriously. You're not Jeff Bassan. Just calm down. Just calm down and enjoy it. Odds are nobody cares about what you're tweeting about. Like, no one cares. Mr. 80 followers from West Virginia, no one even cares what you're saying. So that's just the bottom line for me, man. I love baseball, but you can't take yourself too seriously. This game will humble you real quick. Last thing I'll say about it, Ralph, it's a game of failures. And odds are who adapts the best over the course of 162 games will be your World Series champion. Not the team that starts off 15-0, not the team that starts 0-15, but the team that adapts the most and adapts the best way will most likely win the World Series. That's all I got, Ralph. I'm going to have a panic attack if I stay on here any longer. I genuinely don't even know what to say anything else. You have anything else to wrap it up here?
I have one more thing, Bryce, and you
go ahead.
The show after that.
I'm just going to put it on you. I need to take a deep breath. I can actually get some water here.
Look, I'm going to say something about one of our sponsors. Cook's Hot Dogs is great. It's a great local place in Columbus, Georgia. Some of the best chili. They don't serve ground beef there though. So if Roy gets to watch the show, please let me know if you can cook us up some ground beef sometime soon. And that's all.
Tammy would enjoy that. Ralph, last thing for you. I want to give a shout out.
Yeah, we need to.
Wes,
that was awesome.
Wes from Charlotte was standing in line as we were getting our World Series ring and kept looking at us and then said, "Hey, that's the credit booth, right?" And we're like, "Yeah." And that was awesome. So listen, that is really, really cool. And listen, we couldn't do any of that, or we couldn't be able to do that without you guys. So we appreciate the audience because unlike some people believe, Ralph, it's not just mommy and daddy that watch this show. This show is a little bit more personal. So to the radio people that are going to get this episode to air, you're probably like, what in the heck's going on? I promise you we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming. But hey, this has been a lot of fun. We appreciate it. Bryce Kuhn alongside Ralph Leary. Make sure to follow us on social media. Wes from Charlotte, I hope you enjoy. I hope you made it all the way through to the 29th minute to hear your shout out. We'll try to shout you out again later on the episode. But listen, calm down. It's okay. The Braves are going to be fine. Enjoy Truist Park. Enjoy the gold bling. Just have fun. And then in June, July, start to get a little more serious. Because I'll tell you one thing. This team's good, and it's going to be okay. You can save all the anxiety for October and November.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.